Welcome to my 5-minute tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at patterns. So patterns are various fundamental movements, most of which represent either attack or defense techniques against imaginary opponents with a fixed and logical sequence. Now, when we perform patterns, we must start and finish on the same spot. We must do the correct movement, i.e. an application speed, or a continuous motion, a connected motion, a fast motion, a slow motion. We must not have stiffness in the body. There must be this rhythmical movement and tensing at the right moment. We must perfect each pattern before we move on to the next. Now, I would say perfect as a very loose term. I would say we must have a great understanding of the pattern before we move on to the next one, because perfection is a bit of a big word. And whether we're ever going to perfect the patterns, I don't know. If that was the case, I think we'd all still be on Chongji, okay? So when we're going through patterns, we also have to, there's another part in the encyclopedia. If you've got an encyclopedia, I urge you to go to the patterns, because it's a lot longer than what I can do in 5 minutes. Read all the aspects of how to do a pattern. There's 9 elements in there that we should try and go by when we're performing patterns. You know, another one of those is to make sure that we familiarise ourselves with both right and left. Now, not every pattern has a mirror image of right and left, but what that means is that if we have a technique with our left and we're right-sided, we're right-handed and right-footed, then we've got to try and get it the same, at least look the same, if not feel the same. Okay? So please go to the encyclopedia and read that. If you haven't got one, then just take what I'm saying today. And this will help to go a long way in performing your patterns, okay? Now, each pattern has a diagram, and we stand on one spot and we're always facing towards D. That's going to be in my next tutorial, and I'm going to look at different diagrams within different patterns to try and explain that for you to go away and explore that a bit more. There is another part in the encyclopedia. If you go to the history, and there's different elements in there that General Che set out as how we should train and how we should perform techniques and so on. And one of those is to try and understand and really perform each pattern with the style or the thought of the meaning. So rather than just learn the meanings of the patterns and then learn the movements of the patterns, it's about when you do the pattern, when you really understand the movements, try and think about the meaning whilst performing that pattern. Now, in Taekwondo we have 24 patterns. Now, the reason for 24 patterns, General Che said that if you like, you know, if we're lucky, we might live to 80, 90, maybe 100 years old. But even if we live to 100 years old, that is nothing compared to the life of the world or the life of eternity. It's almost like one day, and one day has 24 hours in it. So he said that the 24 patterns represents his entire life, or one day, yeah, compared to eternity. I hope that makes sense. But again, if you've got an encyclopedia, please read it, please go through it. That's going to give you so much more information than I can give you in these 5 minutes. If you want any more information from myself, then please let me know and I can answer those questions. Now, over the history of Taekwondo, there have been more than 24 patterns, but at any given one time in the ITF syllabus, there is 24 patterns, okay? At certain times in history, patterns were taken out, patterns were put in, but at the moment we have 24 patterns, and within the ITF syllabus that we follow under the presidency of Che Junhua, we have those 24 patterns, which you can find out what they are, again, either on the website or in the encyclopedia if you have one. So please try and perform your patterns with accuracy, try and perform your patterns how they should be done, how the movements should be done, but most of all, the most thing you can do, the biggest thing you can do is really enjoy your patterns, okay? Because patterns, if you like, are a word, okay? So if you sort of liken it to writing, the fundamental movements are like the alphabet, okay? So we've got all these fundamental movements, it's like the alphabet. We put some of those together and then it forms a word, okay? So we've got to draw from all of those fundamental movements. And there's certain aspects in patterns that we can do, or we do, that we can't necessarily do in a fundamental exercise, or even in sparring, okay? So patterns, I believe patterns are something that we really need to understand, we really need to use and practice, because that's going to last forever, Okay, and also it gives us a greater understanding of technique. Okay, so thank you for joining me. Hope you can join me next time when we're going to be looking at the diagrams of the patterns, not necessarily every single one, but just an idea of what the diagrams mean and how we should use those.